Hey everybody, welcome back to Tired Old Queen at the Movies. Let's go see Steve Hayes.
Johnny! Tired Old Queen of the Movies. Oh. Johnny, I haven't recommended a Katharine Hepburn movie in a while, so I thought I would go with 1937's Stage Door, directed by Gregory LaCava and starring Katharine Hepburn, Ginger Rogers, Eve Arden, Lucille Ball, Ann Miller, and Gail Patrick and Andrea Leeds. This movie was based on a stage play by Edna Ferber and George Kaufman, and it had been a big Broadway hit with Margaret Sullivan, and it was about a group of actresses who live in this one building in New York City, and all their struggles during the 30s to try to get on stage.
Maybe if you tried to do something for the theater would do something for you.
Oh, what theater?
Is there a theater?
I don't know. Has anybody looked up the side streets lately?
Now, at this point, Katharine Hepburn had sort of been labeled box office poison. She had made a huge initial impact with A Bill of Divorcement, her first movie, and she won an Oscar for her third movie, Morning Glory. But then she made a string of stinkers, and they weren't going over. People had sort of kind of turned off from her, and she needed a hit.
You sound very superior. What have you ever done?
So when Gregory LaCava approached her about this, she jumped on the chance to play this part.
At least I'm going to have a try at it. If I can act, I want the world to know it. If I can't, I want to know it.
In this movie was Ginger Rogers. Ginger was her main rival at RKO, and there was no love lost between Katharine Hepburn and Ginger Rogers. Ginger thought that Katharine was rather snooty and affected, and Katharine's take in print on Ginger, the Astaire and Rogers movies, was that, well, he gives her class and she gives him sex. So they were kind of had a rival, and it worked perfectly for this movie.
I see that in addition to your other charms, you have that insolence generated by an inferior upbringing.
Fancy clothes, fancy language, and everything.
Unfortunately, I learned to speak English correctly.
Well, I won't be of much use to you here. We all talk pig Latin.
And I use the right knife and fork. I hope you don't mind.
All you need's the knife.
Ginger had wanted to do a more serious part, and this offered her a really good chance at that. Eve Arden is in this movie. She's always got a cat around her neck or over her head or something, and she tells a really funny story. I was watching Merv Griffin one time, and he asked her, he said, well, tell us about Stage Door, because you had all those actresses in one movie. And she said, well, while we were doing Stage Door, Jean Harlow died. It was 1937, and everybody loved Jean Harlow, she said. So we were all going around the set going, poor Jean Harlow, poor Jean Harlow. Then all of a sudden it was quiet, and over in the corner we could hear, poor Jean Harlow, poor Jean Harlow. And we looked over, and there was Annie Miller practicing her tap dance steps at 16 going, poor Jean Harlow, poor Jean This movie was a huge, huge hit for all of them because it gave them all a little moment to shine.
I think she's as phony as that bill.
Oh, I must have missed some fun.
I'll say you did. When she asked if the meals went with the $13, I thought I must think of it.
Maybe she's a social worker doing a little slumming.
Well, she picked the right place.
Say, speaking of slum, when do we eat?
Constance Collier, who was a great old stage actress, shows up as the older actress. I don't suppose you could see someone younger in the row.
I may do a little coaching myself.
And Andrea Leeds gets the one really dramatic role and got the Oscar nomination out of this as Kay, the lovely girl who takes it all so seriously, and as a result doesn't get a part and to tragic consequences, and it affects everybody. This is one of the best movies about acting and about the stage and the basic love of the theater. And Hepburn is very, very natural in this movie.
The calla lilies are in bloom again. Such a strange flower.
Suitable to any occasion. She's always going to be Katharine Hepburn and always going to be magnificent.
After all, acting's only common sense.
Katharine Hepburn, Ginger Rogers, Eve Arden, Lucille Ball, Andrea Leeds. Gregory LaCava's Stage Door. Oh, those girls.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
Stop it.
A treat.
Delicious things to eat.